If you want to see me swatch the Take Me Back to Brazil palette by BH Cosmetics, then stick around. Hi there, it's Hélène, and yes, you heard right, we are going to swatch the Take Me Back to Brazil palette by BH Cosmetics. This is the OG of the Take Me Back to Brazil series. It is pretty much, there's some satins in here, but it's more of a matte look compared to the Rio edition that came out later. There are 28 shadows here. No, pardon me, 32. I don't know why I keep wanting to say 28. It's 32 because it's 4 times 8, plus 3 transformer shades down here for a total of 35 shadows, and in a very compact size palette in my opinion. They are very tiny pans, and I did want to do this calculation when I did these swatches for the Rio edition, which I will put right here. It is a total of, oh, this one is more. It's a total of 35 grams in this one. So roughly 1 gram per pan, but of course these pans are a whole lot larger. So these are maybe, what, 2/3 of a gram or something like that. And it does say pressed pigments. So 1.23 ounces in this palette. And when I take a look at this palette, it definitely says 24 grams, not 35. So there's a lot less in the Rio edition than there is in the original, despite the fact that they look like the same size pans when compared side by side. So that's interesting. There's a lot less product in this second one. Very interesting. I did not know that. Okay. Good to know, good to know. And it doesn't make a difference for me. It would be hard for me to get through these shadows no matter what. But I am very happy about the variety in each one. And like I said, this Take Me Back to Brazil, the original, seems to be more satin and mattes compared to a lot more shimmery, even going toward the metallic for the Rio edition. I think I'm going to do the same thing for this palette as I did for the Rio edition, which is I'm going to go column by column as I go. And it looks like the layout of the shadows is very similar in this palette as it is in the Rio edition. So if you have both, I think personally I'm going to be taking both out when I want to create a look, because the shadows look like they would be quite complementary. So that is nice to see. I mean, they definitely overlap a ton. My mind's already going on looks I could do. We're swatching today, and we're swatching, just swatching. Okay, speaking of, my hands are ready, my forearms are ready, and we're going to go. And I do know I can get all of these swatches on 2 forearms because I did it with the other palette. I'm going to stop talking and see my fingers are already going into the pans for swatching all these wonderful shadows for you. And I'm getting started right now. Ooh, hot pink on the bottom here. So let's see how the first 4 swatches go. And pardon my hands, they're very dry. Been doing a lot with them today. And washing and washing and washing. So far, I'm having the same reaction as I did for the Rio edition, which is that they look very, very similar to each other, except for this last matte. It's very chunky as it goes on, but it is a very matte shadow, so I'm not that surprised. But the first 3 are, I'm going to say meh, because they look so similar. But again, it surprised me with the other palette that when I went in for a second time that they were more differentiating color or differentiated colors, because I built up the opacity of the colors. So we'll see what happens here. Okay, see how chunky it is? Can you see? I'm going to lose a bunch of that color. But they do say pressed pigments, so pigments tend to behave kind of in a funny way. Okay, that is definitely baby pink. Okay, I'm seeing more difference. I'm just not patient, you know? And finally, the hot pink. Oh gosh, yeah, it's crumbly. Right on my black jeans. That's awesome. Very neon hot pink. And the fingers. Can you get a hold of this? Look at that. Take that in, right? Holy cow. Interesting. This one has a touch of salmon in it too, hey? Okay. I'll stop staring at that hot pink, neon pink, and wipe these off if I can. Pigments, I may have stained fingers as we go through, but when the finger's stained and none of is coming off anymore, I'm not too worried about kind of transfer of color. I'm going to wipe my hands though and brush off that hot pink. Holy cow. Okay, second row is this one right here, and so let's get going on those. And they, I'll have to be careful because they do all look like pressed pigments except for the bottom one. An even hotter pink apparently. Wow. It's going to be Crumble City. Here we go. I'm going to try to keep those really close together. Gosh, that looks like the same color, just a slight change. I'm telling you, I went into different pans. I swear to you, I went in different pans. And pinky. Okay, nothing much to say. I think I have to wait till the second swatch on these. Except for this one. I mean, this one, the flaming orangey red is... There's no question on that one. And here are the fingers. So let's go in a second time, shall we? I'm going a little bit around and around in the pan just because the pans are so small. I'm trying to pick up enough to cover a little bit more of the finger. It's not working all that well, but I'm trying. I'm trying. Okay, second go. Okay, that's better. But I don't see that much difference between those two pinks. I really don't. Actually, make that 3 pinks. I don't see that much of a difference among those 3. I really don't. I really don't. Maybe I'm not a color connoisseur. That one built up quite nicely. And then this one gets short shrift because it's the pinky. It's more of a satin color on this one. Okay, so there we go. Second row. I wouldn't say that I'm too jazzed about this one. I actually like the pinky quite a bit. But I'm not that jazzed about that row at all. It's okay. I just feel like there's a lot of redundant color compared to the well, next to the first row, or column. Why am I saying row? Yeah, and I'm starting to get that, talked about staining of the fingers. Pressed pigments do that. See how much I can get off. Okay, it's coming off. All right. So I guess we're going into the third row. And I hope I have enough room on that forearm. Let's see. Oh yeah, I should be fine. We can do this. We can do this. Okay, so clean-ish hand. And we're going into yellow, peach, and a little bit of beigey or rusty colors. Beige and rust color. Okay, so we have another pressed pigment for sure because it's crumbling all over the place. The yellow. And then more of a satin color. And then a looks like a pressed pigment tangerine color. It's hard to get color off those pressed pigments without getting chunks off. So these are the 4 that I have here. So let's try to swatch them without making a mess. Well, that yellow's pretty good. And that is lackluster. It's kind of a satiny, what would I call it? Rust color. That's the tangerine I mentioned. Relatively vibrant. I think that's going to kind of build up quite nicely. And this one is okay. I don't mind the color at all. I think this one and this one would look pretty good together. So let's go for a second pass of those 4. And fingers. Just trying to pick up what I kicked up from that yellow. Boy, this palette is going to be a mess really quick. Those pressed pigments are going to go all over the place, I can tell. What a mess, what a mess. But I gotta swatch them, I gotta swatch them. I need that reference. Here we go. I do very much go back to my swatches videos for commentary and for color selection, because what's in the pan is just not always what you get on the skin. Now we all have different skin tones. Okay, I'm liking this one more. And then the pinky. Okay, they're all right. The standout color is definitely the yellow for me, but I'm just a sucker for yellow. So here we go. Look at that pinky. It's looking pretty good. All right, let's wipe those fingers off and get to the next row. We have the last set of 4 for this forearm coming up. Oh, by the way, if you want to see how I came up with this look, it's with the Pat McGrath Platinum Bronze. I'll put that video right here for you, if you've been wondering. For anything else on my face, you can look at the description box below, and it's all listed right there. Okay, so here we are on the 4th column. I didn't show you. Let me show you before I keep swatching. We're on this row right here. So yellows and greens, I'm a happy girl. Love me some yellows and greens. Especially lime green, that's my favorite. Here we go. And let's get to swatching. I knew I would like this one. I thought I was going to make a comment about the 2 different yellows, but I've decided I'm going to wait till the second swatch is up to see the difference between the 2. So going in and trying to catch all my excess from the first set of swatches. Swatcher beware on this palette, boy, it is tough to get in there. The Rio Edition was easier because a lot more of the shadows are kind of tacky. Here we go. Okay, I don't know if it's just because of the colors that they're next to. I don't find these 2 yellows to be all that different. I really don't. Let me just look in the pan here. Yeah, in the pan, they really don't look all that different either. So, if you're wondering, I'm talking about this one and this one. I don't really see much of a difference. So I'm not quite sure why there are 2 yellows. Maybe yellow is a popular color, but whatever. I do like this second color though. I'm just going to see if I can intensify it a little bit because it's quite different from the other two, but it's not really standing out. I'm a sucker for that color right here. I think it's very, very cool. That's the grunge in me, liking that color. I mean, Subculture is my favorite Anastasia palette, although it was recently displaced, I think, by the Jackie Aina palette. If you want to see those swatches, I'll put those right there. I was shocked by what I saw in those swatches. I really hemmed and hawed for that palette, and I'm really happy that I went for it because the colors are so nice. Just so nice. Actually, I think that one and the Subculture together, they're probably a match made in heaven. So we'll see. But we've got the first arm done. And it's time to get into the second half of the palette. So we did this whole half, and now we're going into this one, continuing on. So we're going to do this row first, or row column. Gosh, Hélène, column. It's all greens, starting with a very, very bright one. And it's a mix of some kind of satiny colors and some pressed pigments. All right, so let's see what these will give us. Almost looks like a duochrome, this last one, the fourth one. So here's the first pass on those first 4 shades and the fingers, and we're going to go in a second time. I'm really curious to see what happens with application on the eye for these. And I think that my NYX Milk crayon is going to come in handy to really make these colors pop. Been wearing that one a lot lately. Resurrected it, and I do like using it. That one's a bit chunky. Again, pressed pigments tend to be chunky. And here we go. There's the second pass. I'm not too jazzed about this set of 4. Meh. I mean, I really like this color, but these other ones don't seem to show up all that much. I think I might just redo the last 3. I'm just not impressed at all. See if I can get more color out of them. Maybe I didn't do a good job swatching, I don't know. Could be. Well, that's better. Oh, I do like it. Kelly Green. Let's see if we can get a good one here. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I'm just not impressed with those 4, but I do really, really like this one, and then a close second's this one. I have to say, this is probably going to be a really nice one for my skin tone. And here are the fingers. Okay, 3 more columns to go. And that Kelly Green is hanging on. Okay, dry fingers, and we're going into this column right here. All right, and that nice blue. This is really very much a companion, or the Rio Edition is a real companion palette to this one. You can really see, if you take a look at those 2 palettes, how they are absolutely complementary with mattes going with the shimmers in the other palette and so on. Very complementary. This looks promising compared to the last set of swatches that I had trouble with. Let's see here. That's nice. Much better. Okay, and this one. Okay, not as good as the first, but that's all right. And this, oh, yeah, pressed pigment. Makes a mess. Let's try to fix that. A brush wouldn't do that. This is happening because of the finger. Okay, and the last one. And that is a complete failure on swatching. Holy cow. That's terrible. Okay, let's go in again. The first blue was nice. But a swatch, when it's pressed pigments, they don't necessarily swatch well. So we're going to see. All right, let's try that again. Building up that blue, that worked nicely. The aqua, better, but still not great. See what happens with this pressed pigment. Yeah, not fantastic. The color's coming through, but it's kind of rough. And this one I don't really care for. It's just plain weird. Nothing much to say about that. Okay, and you know, because it's the pinky, I'll try it one last time, but I'm really not impressed. Here it is one more time. Okay, well maybe third time's the charm, but I'm still not too jazzed about it. Okie dokie. Let's wipe these fingers off, and we have the some more pinks and some purples to do. I think one more blue too. Let's see what happens. Okay, so we're doing this one now. Some blues and purples. Definitely a couple of pressed pigments in here. I think I said pressed, pressed pigments. Whoops, making a mess of the palette. I have to get used to that. It's going to get messy, and it just is. Okay. They're really recessed into the pan, and that makes it even harder to get to the pans. Okay, this is definitely going to be a mess. Oh boy. Let's see how we can get this done. I'm glad I have a towel over my pants this time. I'm learning. This is pretty gritty. 2 second shadow or pressed pigment. Do you see that? It's really crumbly. 3rd. Yeah, I knew that one was going to be a mess. Look at that. Yeah, it's just a big mess. Just some pigments do not swatch well. So that's just a big mess. And that one is not much better. It's a little bit better, but not by much. So let's do these 4 again. What a mess. It looks better on the fingers though, doesn't it? There you go. That's the colors. All right, let's try it again. Actually, I won't wipe them off. I'm just going to keep going. It's picking up all the kick up from the first time around. That 3rd blue is weird. It has a lot of glitter in it. Well, just more chunky shimmer anyway. And let's see what happens on this one. Okay, that is redeeming itself. All right. Well, let's see how bad this one is on the second go. Okay, not so bad. All right. Still really, they're all pretty rough. And how does the pinky do? Lots of fallout, but seems to be spreading okay. So that's definitely not my favorite column at all, but the fingers do look better. So I'll take it for what it's worth. It's just the looks better on the fingers, so maybe on the eyelids it's going to look better than it does on the arm. Wow, stained hands. Whew, not really coming off. And it's okay because I've got dark, like relatively deep purples coming up, so it's not that big of a deal if my fingers are stained, although I'm really trying to clean them off. Okay, last set of 4 swatches. We're going to do these 4. Last column. And I'm really hoping to like these purples. That second last column was rough. So far, I'm liking it. Oh, that looks a lot more blue in the viewfinder than it does in real life. So I wonder if there's a kind of color shift aspect to it. Okay, this is what we're working with. Let's see what happens. And I've got just enough room for them. Well, that's a good start compared to that last set of 4. Okay, and let's go for the third one. Oh, that's a big mess. That is very weird. And last one. Okay, weird set of 4. The first one was okay, but then it went downhill from there. And let's get into the second round of swatches on those. Hopefully I don't have too much mix-up of color here, just from swatching so close next to each other. Okay, so I'm going in second time. Let's see how it goes. I think this one's going to be okay. All right, that one did okay. Now this one. So-so. Second last. I think they're going to do better applied on the eye. They're just really tough. You know what? This second last one here, it's analogous to the other one in the Rio Edition, and it was problematic as well. So maybe that's just to do with that specific pigment being pretty tough. I'm just going to go in one last time to see if I can pick up a tiny bit more color, because it looks gorgeous. It's like an eggplant in the pan. I would really love for it to work out. That is what we're going to get. Although the fingers to me just look more promising, don't they? They look so good. I have a feeling that they're going to look really good on the eye. It's just not looking good in swatches. Go figure. So we did 32 of those shadows as I wipe my fingers, but we haven't done those 3 transformer shades on the bottom. So let's take a quick look at those. And it looks like they're the same as in the other palette. Maybe this one a little bit more aquamarine than the other one. But let's do those swatches. And the black looks like the same black as in the other palette. I'm just want to compare them side by side to see if they're any different. So yeah, they're a bit different in that the Rio Edition, they were more sparkly. At least they had a sparkly overspray on these two. But the matte black, it looks very similar, but let's still do it. This one looks like it might be a little bit more satiny. So let's do all 3 of them again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 3 fingers and swatch on the back of my hand here because these are a little bit busy. So let's do that. Okay, so here's the first one. Kind of a peachy gold. We've got the black. And then the kind of mermaidy color is what I'm going to call it. That's what I called it in the last video. It's kind of a bluish green, and that's a peachy gold. And let's go a second time in those. So here we go Last 3 swatches and then we're done. Here we go. This one. The black builds up really nicely, doesn't it? And then that mermaid color. Just looking at it here. Looks very similar. I think this one's a bit different in this palette, but they look very similar to the other one. The other one I thought had more of a pink. This one seems to have more of a yellow and blue, and the other one I thought had more of a pink and blue. But these two look very, very similar. I think I'm going to just swatch the other one next to this one and see if I'm full of it or if I remember it correctly. Yeah, so this one is more yellow and green, and this one has more blue to it, so they're not quite the same. And now I'm curious about the peach and gold, so I'm just going to do that one as well, just to be sure. But the black I know is the same, virtually the same. Okay, I do think that the peachy gold from the one we just did today and the gold peachy one from the Rio Edition are pretty close. So the OG and the Rio Edition are pretty close when it comes to the peachy gold. They're very, very close, if not identical. Yeah. Anyway, that is my verdict on those. So let's take a look at all the swatches all together. I don't think they swatched as well as the Rio Edition, but I did not expect them to because there are so many pressed pigments in here. I will say, however, that pressed pigments, because they act like temperamental mattes, they tend to blend really nicely on the eye. As far as I'm concerned, I don't have an issue with pressed pigments. It's just when it comes to purples and blues, some greens, they just look rough in swatches. But at least you get an idea, or we get an idea of the colors that are available in this palette. So I'm okay with this one. I knew I would be okay with this one. I just like swatching because you really can't tell in the pan what it might look like on the skin. And so I'm still very happy to have done this, even though it was a bit of a gong show with some of the colors. But yeah, I think that value for money, these palettes, might as well talk about both of them. These palettes are pretty good value for money because it's a ton of different colors. So you have the variety, but if you don't use a ton of color pigments, you don't need full-size pans. So I think that those palettes are really a good value, and I'm looking forward to playing with these colors. As I keep showing them to you over and over again, I'm excited. So this was, to me, a successful swatches experiment, so to speak, although all I want to do now is put brushes into these pans and see what the real performance is going to be by using the pigments, the pressed pigments and the pressed pigment shimmer combos in all sorts of ways as intended. So we will see what happens. Let me know what you thought of the swatches, what you thought of the colors, the consistency. Do you have some go-to looks with these palettes? I would be very curious, especially this particular one, which was the original Take Me Back to Brazil. And that's it. That's all I have for you. That's all I have to ask of you in the comments. I thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it every single time. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. But for now, take care.